Hey, I'm Callie. Thanks so much for watching Graceland Online. Graceland Church exists to see lives transformed in the neighborhoods, the generations, and the nations through Jesus Christ. The teaching that you're about to hear is based on the Bible, and we believe that it will be inspiring and relevant to your life. And if you're here because you're searching for answers to tough questions and looking for help on how to navigate life, we would love for you to text us with any questions or if you just need someone to talk to. And again, thanks for watching Graceland Online. We're praying for you and we hope that this video will be an encouragement to you on your spiritual journey.
If you're watching this on its release date or somewhat close to it, then you know that school just finished up a few weeks ago. And this was a really big one for me and my family. You see, my daughter, she's 10, she just finished the 4th grade. And so for us, that means that she's transitioning to middle school in the fall. My son, who's 5 years old, he just finished his last semester of preschool. And so for him, that means he's going into kindergarten, man. And both of these transitions certainly make my dad heart want to just say, slow down. Now you hear that and you might think that I would be more nervous about my baby girl going to middle school. But in reality, I am thinking more about my son starting kindergarten. You see, my daughter, she's the firstborn, and so she is a rule follower who rarely talks back. But on the other hand, my son, man, he says the first thing that comes to his mind. So I'm pretty certain that he's gonna get into more trouble at school in his first semester than my daughter did in her entire time in elementary school. Just to give you an example of some ways in which my son, he talks back and he'll talk out of turn. Not too long ago, we were at the dinner table and I told him to keep eating, which if you're a parent, by the way, it feels like something that you have to say every time you sit down to eat, right? But I told him, I said, hey, keep eating. Finish your food. And he looks over at me and he responds just like this. And maybe you've heard this all too familiar phrase before if you're a parent. But he looks over and he goes, says who? I wanted to immediately respond and be like, well, me. You know, I'm your dad. I'm responsible for you. I'm a big part of the reason that you're here. I'm the authority in your life. That's who says. Therefore, you're just going to do what I say. This question, says who? It's a really important one. And this is going to be a jumping off point for us in our discussion today in this episode. Now, just to reiterate what Nate said last week in last week's episode, we're discussing and we're sharing with you, the listener, the watcher, various evidences, proofs, or reasons to believe in the existence of God. So, if you're not a part of the Graceland family, we're not asking you to come to our church or to make a decision, although we would love it if you did either of those things. But rather, we want you to consider the question, does God exist? And if so, what does that mean for your life? We're appealing to your logic, to your rational thought. But we also understand that at the end of the day, believing in God, it requires faith. It requires trust. The writer of Hebrews, which Hebrews is a book of the Bible, the writer of Hebrews says that faith is the evidence of things unseen and things hoped for. And so that being said, we believe, we trust, we have confidence that there are some very compelling reasons, some compelling proofs for the existence of God. And now, to dive into our episode today, I want to ask you a question to get you thinking. Do you believe in right and wrong? Do you believe in right and wrong? There are things in this world that are absolutely right. Are there things in this world that are absolutely wrong? Now, most people would say yes to this question. Of course there's right. Of course there's wrong. But maybe for you at first glance, you would say no. Then I would appeal to you with this follow-up question or questions. Is genocide wrong? Is killing someone without cause wrong? Is slavery wrong? Is it wrong to devalue one person over another? Most people would say that valuing human life is right. To seek peace instead of war, to value the truth over lying, and to want to nurture instead of destroy, that these are morals that most humans live by. If this is the case, And again, I know that you may have some nuanced responses to what I'm saying here, but if this is the case, and there are some things that are absolutely right, and there are some things that are absolutely wrong, then my next question would be this. Think about this for just a moment. Where do we get right and wrong? Where does right and wrong actually come from? So who says what is right and what is wrong? While there are several suggestions and so many answers to this question, I want to spend some time talking about a few of the most popular. But before I do that, I want to suggest to you that you should have an answer to this question. If you haven't thought about it, then you do not really have a foundation for an essential question in life. I would encourage you to have a response to this question. Otherwise, you're just kind of free floating in midair, and your foundation will float with the wind or really come crashing down at any time. And so once again, to get us back to the question at hand, where do we get right and wrong? Where does right and wrong come from? First response to this question would be this. It would be known as a natural law. Where we get right and wrong from is known as the natural law. And this would suggest that we look to nature for things that determine right and wrong. We look to nature, we look to evolution to be the authority for human morals. Therefore, whatever is most fitting and whatever is most helpful for humans would be right, and whatever is not helpful would be wrong. However, nature and the theory of evolution points to the survival of the fittest, predatory behavior, and violence. And while many would suggest that these things are okay in regards to animals in the wild, very few people would say that these things are okay for humans. Second response to this question, where do we get a right and wrong from, or would be to say that morals come from people. That we are the ones who write laws, that we are the one who actually create rights for people. And this argument would suggest that societies create rights for the individual, and then this in turn will benefit the society at large, or the society as a whole. And this would be a majority ruled society where votes and laws are passed that uphold the right things and try to eliminate the wrong things. However, what if the majority decides it is not in their interest to uphold human rights? Which this has happened time and time again in human history. In fact, it is happening now in many places around the world. If morals and rights are only held by the majority and those who hold power, then who can you appeal to if your rights are legislated out of existence? So once again, I ask then, who says what is right and wrong? If nature isn't the answer, and if people aren't the answer, then what is? Who says what is right? Who says what is wrong? I would suggest to you that there must be a supernatural being. I would suggest that God determines what is right and what is wrong. You see, God not only answers this all-important question, but he also gives an answer to why the nature of humans are flawed. Why nature is flawed and the nature of humans are flawed. Pastor Tim Keller, he says it like this. He says, we can't know that nature is broken in some way unless there is some supernatural standard of normalcy apart from nature by which we can judge right and wrong. And so my hope today is that I have just given you something to chew on, something to think about. And from this, you have two ways in which you can respond. Two ways. One, you can simply refuse to answer the question, where do we get right and wrong? You can refuse to think about those implications that come along with it. Or two, you can recognize that you do know that there is a God. And from this, you can see that life has meaning and that there is beauty and that there is love in the world and that you can receive fulfillment in this world. The choice is yours. The choice is yours. If you have questions about today's episode, if you'd like to know more about Graceland, please be sure then to text us. Again, that number is 812-432-2234. Also, if you're blessed by any way from this episode, you can contribute to the ministry of Graceland by giving at gracelandchurch.online. Thanks again for tuning in, and then we'll see you again next time.
Thanks again for watching Graceland Online. We hope that God spoke to you today through this video. And again, feel free to text us if you have any questions about anything you heard, or if there's any way that we might be able to help you. And you can also find more videos and resources at gracelandchurch.online. And if you feel that you've been blessed by these videos, please consider donating so that we can continue sharing more content to more people. Thanks again for watching, and we hope you'll join us again soon.